Live from the American Riviera in Santa Barbara, California, please welcome the host of Ken Boxer Live, Mr. Ken Boxer.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being here. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Ken Boxer Live. I'm your host, Ken Boxer. We have a very, very special guest joining us this half hour. Tonight, making her very first guest appearance on our show is the very talented, award-winning KEYT news anchor Shirin Rajaee. Shirin not only co-anchors KEYT's morning show called This Morning, but she also produces many of the daily stories for the KEYT newscasts. Many of us have enjoyed watching Shirin and have wondered, who is Shirin Rajaee and where did she come from? It's almost as if she just appeared one day and captured the hearts of so many viewers. Well, tonight, we have Shirin here live in our studio, so let's now meet and get to know the very lovely, very talented, award-winning, mind you, KEYT news anchor, Shirin Rajaee. Welcome to
Thank you so
Ken
much.
Boxer.
Thanks.
It's so nice
thrilled to be here. You've been so gracious ever since I first met you, so I'm so honored to be on your show.
Well,
I'm not used to being on this side of the interview.
I know.
So.
Is it uncomfortable for you?
You know, it's different. It's different. Normally, I have questions prepared to ask you, but I'm ready.
Oh, you're ready?
So,
okay, I'm going to
yeah.
dish them out. Okay, I mentioned that all of a sudden you just seem to just pop out of nowhere and take in the hearts of everybody.
Thank you.
Where did you come from? What's your background? Where did it all begin?
Well, I'm from Los Angeles, and so I was so fortunate to get this opportunity to be in Santa Barbara here. But if we go back a little bit, I started working at CNN Los Angeles. I got an opportunity to work in the LA bureau at CNN behind the scenes. So I was working behind the camera, working in production, working to help produce several shows from Larry King Live to Showbiz Tonight to Headline News to working on the assignment desk. And I think that's where I learned the inner workings of a newsroom. It was, you know, working with some of the best talent in the industry, people that I admired. So that's kind of where I learned the background of things.
So you paid your dues.
I paid my dues. Oh yeah, 3.5 years. I did everything they wanted me to do, and I kind of worked my way up. And they were very supportive. My CNN family, some who I'm very close to still, were very supportive of what I wanted to do. So from time to time, they would let me kind of sit in, let me shoot some things to kind of get me prepared. But I knew that I needed to get some on-camera experience. So as I was kind of in the industry working at CNN, I met some folks that worked for Persian television, and they suggested, well, why don't you come work with us and maybe shoot some of our junkets and entertainment news in the American market, but it would be in Farsi. So I went to the studios in Calabasas, and I wanted to see what they were all about, and they did a camera test, and they said, you know what, why don't you just host your own show? And
but how long did it take to get to that point once you got to
the Persian television?
Exactly.
I would say pretty quickly. So I think once they kind of saw me, we did the interview and we worked together for maybe a few months. They said, why don't you just host your own show? Would you be interested in doing something like that? And to be honest, the show would have been in Farsi, you know, satellite, so international and domestic. And Farsi is my first language. I'm Iranian, Persian. But I speak what I call Finglish. So I mix my English and my Farsi all the time. So I went home to my mom and I said, how am I supposed to do this? You know, they've made me this offer to host this show. And she said, hey, listen, it's your first language. It'll come to you. I think you should do it. So I accepted the position, and 3.5 years there alongside CNN. So I was kind of juggling both because it was only a once-a-week show. I would write my own scripts. I would basically produce the show myself and go gather American entertainment news, but in Farsi. So that's kind of where I got familiarity with the camera.
But if somebody were to ask you today, how do you get into the business? What do you usually tell people?
Okay, so I would definitely say internships. And internships definitely just pave the way for you, get your foot in the door. So I think a lot of the young people that are aspiring to be journalists or in this field, I say try to just get your foot into the door somewhere. I worked for NBC as an internship there, and so that kind of helped me build some contacts. So I would say internships are the best way.
We jumped into your starting at CNN.
Right.
But let's go a little bit back even further.
Okay.
What were you doing in high school? What were you doing?
Oh, in high school?
Yeah, pre-college days. What were you thinking about?
Oh, that's interesting. So I went to Arcadia High School. It's a city close to Pasadena. I don't know if you're familiar with it, in the Los Angeles area. And, you know, growing up, I had aspirations to be in broadcasting, but I wasn't sure. I knew it was a very competitive market. I didn't know if there was stability there or not. So I had a creative side to me. And so I was thinking, if it's not going to be broadcasting, then maybe some kind of PR or publicity or something where I'm communicating with people out in the field. I wasn't the person that wanted to sit behind the desk from 9 to 5. I knew that. And I felt that I had good communication skills, so something maybe with marketing or advertising. So I kind of explored different avenues. Well,
I've been told, though, maybe it started then, you have a great personality, and you have a funny personality.
Oh,
You're always telling jokes and the like. I heard, tell me if this is true or not, in high school that you were in some auxiliary program.
Where did you find that?
You consumed vodka instead of water. What was that? Is that where all the partying began?
Oh my gosh, that is a funny story. I have no idea who told you that, but that's really funny. So yes, I was part of the color guard in high school, and Arcadia High School had a very competitive color guard. You know, this like the flag team and the
drinking vodka would be very.
No,
colorful.
let me tell you that story. So, part of the color guard of the marching band, and so it was almost very military-esque. We had rehearsals, and I would spin sabers, and I would spin rifles, you know, wooden rifles, and we would have competitions. And so one late night practice, we would have practice, I don't know, from like 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. at night, and it's very hardcore. And I would fill my water bottles up with water, and I'd put them in the freezer so that they would kind of get really cold so that I can enjoy them, you know, when it's time to drink, when it's, you know, during the rehearsal. Well, my mom had put vodka in a water bottle, I don't know why, in the freezer. So when I went to go grab for practice, I grabbed a water bottle thinking it's water, but it was vodka. So I went to practice, and you know, my instructor was really hard on us, and so we only had water breaks that were literally like 30 seconds. So I had my water ready, and we're running, and we're sweating, and we're working, and then he goes, 30-second water break right now. So everyone runs to their water bottles. I grab my water bottle. We have been running and going for a long time, and I take a huge, like, chug, 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 and it's like burning. And I could not believe, I probably took in at least 4 to 5 shots of vodka, you know, knowing that this was not water, but I didn't know what to do, who to tell.
Well, you know, it's funny thing is, it's usually children who are changing the vodka and the water, interchanging them when the parents are away.
Oh my gosh, I was dying. So I had to tell my instructor that I have just taken 5 shots of vodka. And because I was throwing rifles in the air, and I was feeling my head spin. And so my instructor got such a kick out of it that he was just dying of laughter and made me go through the routine anyway.
Well, from there, that moment, okay, you're going from high school to CNN. You brought with you, we're going to college, you're going to college, but I'm jumping leaps here.
Right.
You received, ladies and gentlemen, in our audience, this is the Golden Mike Award. They don't just hand this out. And congratulations on getting this. Really, seriously. They don't just hand these out. You brought with you the clip of your work that you received this award.
Yeah, you know, just recently received this Golden Mike, so it was such an honor to be recognized. And this was for one of the news reports that I produced and wrote and did interviews for KEYT. It was a really tough story to tell because it was very sensitive. It was a woman that I had met who opened up to me and shared her story about losing her brother in a very horrific way about 35 years ago. And so she was talking to me about her struggle and how she's been going to the trial proceedings for the person who murdered her brother, making sure she does not get parole, and how hard that was for her as a 14-year-old growing up and having to do this till, you know, she's an adult now. And so I said, hey, would you want to sit down and just kind of take a look back, you know, 35 years later? And she agreed. And I submitted this piece to the TV and Radio Academy, and they they chose it as a recipient of the Golden Mic.
Well, let's watch. Let's watch Shirin Rajaee.
A few weeks before Christmas in December of 1978, little Javier, who had been playing with a friend at the family store, was nowhere to be found. Just feet away, a woman then in her 20s named Julia Diaz had an evil plan that would forever change a community.
We knew a lot of people, so it wasn't his nature to just take off with somebody. So I just thought, okay, we're going to find him and that's it.
This is the marketplace on Haley Street on Santa Barbara's east side, where little 7-year-old Javier used to love to play. Yolanda's family owned this market some 30 years ago, and just around the corner in this apartment complex is where Julia Diaz lured her victim.
Julia had him in her room. She strangled him. She beat him over the head with a hammer. And then, while he was still alive, stuffed him into garbage bags. It's believed that she purchased the garbage bags from my parents' market.
Diaz was tried and convicted, found guilty of the murder of Javier Angel and attempted murder of yet another child just a week before. Published reports said the motive was extortion. Diaz was sentenced to 25 years to life.
I really think that given the violent nature of it, honestly, I don't think she should be alive.
For years, Magana fought, going to each of Diaz's parole hearings, arguing against her release. Finally, in 2011, a victory. For the first time in the history of California, the parole board set Diaz's next parole hearing in 15 years instead of 5. Now, Julia Diaz, who's in her late 50s, has been denied parole. She will spend the rest of her life behind bars in a women's prison just outside of Fresno. And Yolanda's brother's story will be told this weekend on Investigations Discovery Channel, Friday night at 10, Saturday at 1 a.m., and again Sunday at 3 p.m. In Santa Barbara, Shirin Rajaee, News Channel 3.
Shirin Rajaee is with us live in our studios. So, how did you choose this particular story over the many that you've done?
You know, I think one of the great joys of this profession is that every day is a new story. Every day you get to meet new people. Every day you get to learn new things. This story touched me personally. So it was hard because, you know, as a reporter, you have to stay objective and make sure that you just tell the story. And especially when it comes to stories like this, I wanted to make sure that you're not only just sensationalizing a story, but giving that person justice, giving, you know, the little boy that died justice. And for me, it just moved me. So I felt a connection to it and felt compelled to just submit it. I had no idea I was going to get chosen, so.
Well, when you're not doing the news,
right?
Okay, what kind of fun are you doing? What are you having? What are you doing in Santa Barbara?
When? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, really. Well, how often are you working?
Okay, so it's Monday through Friday, but you know, I get up at 3 a.m.
It's not all luxurious.
So no, it's definitely the glamour part is maybe 40%, and then 60% is it's not glamorous. But you know, I wake up at 3 a.m. I'm usually at work at 3:30, sometimes even earlier. And I prep for the show, I write, I help the producers stack the show, and we get ready for the 5 a.m. newscast. 5 to 7 a.m. is the show, and then we go into Good Morning America segments, and then we go into the morning meeting, and sometimes then I'm sent out to do reports, which I then put together for the evening news. So I would say my day kind of wraps up around 1 or 2 p.m., sometimes a little later, depending on what I'm working on. And I try to get a nap in. So I would say what I love about this shift now, working the mornings, is I used to work the evening shift when I first came to Santa Barbara. I was the evening anchor. I anchored the 5 and 6 o'clock, and then I reported live for the 11 o'clock news. But the morning is a completely different dynamic, and it allows for me to have my evenings free. So I'm a foodie, and I love checking out restaurants. So I've lived here for almost 3 years now, and there are still places I'm discovering, places that I've never been to. And so that's kind of what I love to do. I love getting together with friends, going to restaurants, trying out new things. I love live music. So if there's ever a chance to go to the Santa Barbara Bowl or go to, you know, see a performer live.
But I also heard that you enjoy going to Hollywood and Las Vegas when you're not working.
I do. Hollywood and Las Vegas. Las Vegas not as often as I would want to, but sure. I love going with like friends and family. And then in Hollywood, it's kind of, you know, being here in Santa Barbara, I'm so close to home, and most of my friends are in Los Angeles. However, I've created a great group of friends here as well. So sure, if we're in
was it
LA,
hard for you
we
to
go
come
out.
from LA to the lifestyle of Santa Barbara?
No.
I mean, do you consider yourself a Santa Barbara?
What?
Or do you consider yourself a Santa Barbara?
I do. I consider this home for me now. And it's, a lot of people ask me, is this too slow for you? Is this kind of sleepy for you coming from an LA lifestyle, big energy? And for me, it's perfect because I work, 12-hour days. So I don't miss the traffic of Los Angeles. And I get to kind of enjoy, because I live by the beach. So I get to enjoy the serenity of the water. And then there's so many great things to do here, again, that I haven't done yet. So for me, it's been great. And I have the pleasure or the convenience of going back and forth a lot.
Well, what about the stories that you do? Do you prefer the softer pieces, or do you prefer like the hard murder stories?
I think I prefer a combination. I think entertainment news is a lot of fun. I've had the privilege of covering the Santa Barbara International Film Festival here. It's probably one of my favorite things to cover. It's obviously, that's the fun part. You get to, rub elbows with the celebrities and meet some amazing people that come in town here. But I think what's also very compelling to me are those hard pieces, the stories that matter, the stories that, the human interest stories. So I like sit-down interviews, actually. Those are probably my favorite. To actually really get to know somebody a little bit more intimately. I think those are my favorite.
Well, you had an intimate meeting with Oprah Winfrey. And mind you, she doesn't give interviews, doesn't give very many, and you snagged it. I heard that KYT was the only one really there that was allowed there.
Right.
You snagged it and you got it and you brought a clip from that.
I
Describe
did.
that day for us.
I think to sum it up, it was probably the highlight of my career. I grew up watching Oprah. She's obviously, to so many millions of people, just an inspiration, someone I've looked up to. I've watched her interview thousands of people, so I had some nerves, because when I was going to meet her, I was going to be on the other side of that interview. And, I think for me, the takeaway was that I grew up watching Oprah, and she was such a loving, such a warm person when I would watch her in my home, and she was exactly that same person in that interview. So it was just so amazing to be that close to her.
Shirin Rajaee, let's watch her with Oprah.
Oprah Winfrey raised about $600,000 at her auction over the weekend. Shirin Rajaee was there for all the action.
I have 15 bid 1600, 15 bid 16.
First-time auctioneer Oprah Winfrey was on fire.
Going once, going twice, sold at 60.
The talk show queen had the crowd out of their seats, snapping photos. Even best friend Gayle King was there to support. Oprah auctioned off a few items, including a 1985 color purple poster. She even signed it for the lucky new owner, who dished out a nice $4,100. Hundreds of Oprah's personal belongings from her homes in Santa Barbara, Indiana, Maui, and Chicago were up for grabs. Everything from fine art to antiques. As Miss Winfrey renovates her Montecito estate, she says the Oprah style has changed.
When I first came to Santa Barbara and I found that beautiful estate there, I thought you had to do like a big fancy, estate-looking house with, 18th century and 19th century gold gilded stuff. That really isn't who I am. When I really moved here and was spending more time here, I realized I really am a pajama girl.
This set of 6 18th century Louis XVI chairs went for a whopping $60,000. The electric scooters, around $2,500 each.
I'm still trying to get that Vogue poster. I'm going to try to bid on it.
Oh my gosh. You know what? I may want to keep that poster.
That's what we were talking about.
I know. I thought I kept that poster.
And she did. Oprah had a change of heart and ended up keeping this beautiful 1998 Vogue cover. But this yard sale of the century, as many called it, has a bigger vision. In 2007, she founded the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for disadvantaged girls in South Africa.
I have 370 girls at the school. I have 75 girls graduating every year. All of those girls go to college.
All proceeds of the auction will be donated to the foundation, but college tuition for 74 girls can even be much for Oprah.
Anybody who's ever put one through college, you know what I'm talking about. You know why I'm selling the sofas.
Now, the
auction raised nearly $600,000. Again, that money will be going towards Oprah's Leadership Academy Foundation, and her Montecito home should be renovated just in time for her 60th birthday bash in January. In Santa Barbara, Shirin Rajaee, News Channel 3.
Very good. Shirin Rajaee, everybody. This could have been winning a golden mic.
That was just amazing for me. Whether it won or not, that was for me.
Well,
yeah.
One of our guests previously, John Palminteri,
yes,
came here with one of these golden mics.
John Palminteri is
hand them out. So
great friend of mine.
You're in good companies with John Palminteri.
Yes. John Palminteri has kind of been a mentor, kind of the Rolodex, the mayor of Santa Barbara, I would say. So he's been kind of helping me navigate through the city.
Took you under his wings. He knows everything about Santa Barbara.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can call John at any hour. He probably is already on the scene, actually.
Right. Okay. Now, you mentioned your background. You speak Farsi. Also heard that you're a fantastic singer. And I also know the New Year's coming up. And you're a fantastic cook. I've done my research. Wow. Okay. You love making big platters of Persian food?
I do.
How do you get invited to these feasts?
I do. Yeah, you know.
Tell us about the New Year and things.
Yeah, so my Persian culture, obviously very family oriented. We do throw big parties, and it's all about food. So we have huge platters. My mom does, right? No, but we have big platters of food, and hopefully you'll come on an empty stomach. And so next time I'll definitely invite you, Ken. But yeah, it's exciting actually. Persian New Year's coming up. So we are exactly 10 days from Persian New Year. Persian New Year starts right at the beginning of spring. And it hits right at the spring equinox, the vernal equinox. So every year it's a different time, depending on when that equinox happens. So it's not like American New Year that happens at midnight on December 31st. So ours this year is March 20th at 9:57 a.m. So that's kind of when all the families get together, and they gather around what's called a hafsin. And it's 7 things on this table. It's a beautiful spread. 7 things on this table that start with S, and each of these items are symbolic for the new year, kind of a way to bring health or beauty or prosperity or wealth for the new year for you. It's actually, the new year is called Nowruz, which means new day. So it's exciting. And
where did you learn to cook?
My mom, but I am definitely nowhere close to my mom's cooking. So I kind of just little recipes here and there, and also with the schedule now, I don't get to cook as often as I'd like, but yes. Yeah.
Okay, well, the news that got away from you, in other words, any stories that you just said to yourself, oh my God, I wish I covered that, and I didn't get it.
Yeah,
any of those that happen?
Usually John Palminteri is covering.
He takes it.
Yeah, there's still so many stories that I want to cover.
Tell us, what are some stories that you'd like to do?
Maybe
John's listening.
Right, I know.
He'll stay away from those.
There are a lot of stories, obviously, would love to cover more election-like stories. So John and I actually would do a lot of the election nights here. Maybe get a little bit more into politics, maybe get into a little bit more of the international, national scene. We cover national and international news here locally, but of course our focus is on local news. So even kind of delving a little bit more deeper in some of the bigger issues that we have,
Well, being a woman in this business and being an anchor and I know KEYT in the past has had an anchor like suing KEYT on looks and versus their work. Did you have felt any of that coming through the ranks? As a woman?
Surprisingly, no. Not yet, at least.
I think she's very attractive, don't you, everybody?
I
mean, you're not going to have a problem with that, trust me.
Thank you. I will say, though, it's kind of, what I have noticed is it's kind of a cutthroat industry, so whether, especially I think for women, I was very fortunate and so grateful that KEYT brought me on, and they are a wonderful group to work with, but also the community of Santa Barbara. I mean, because it's one of those things, they may not like you. So I was so warmly embraced here, and I host a lot of community functions in town here, and I get invited to, and I love doing that. I love being in the community, but really it's the people that kind of invited me into their homes, write me emails, send me messages on social networking, kind of just welcoming me, and I think that's been so wonderful. But at the same time, as a woman, you're going to get a lot of eyes on you. It's a very competitive, a lot of people want to be in this industry, so you kind of have to, be able to work with the politics that go along with that too.
Is there a lot of politics here in Santa Barbara, particularly?
I would say, you know,
for you,
I think in any industry you're going to have some politics. So I wouldn't say specifically I've been targeted, but I would say sure. I would say everybody probably has dealt with some degree of it.
Okay, so I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but I was told you're a singer, that you have a great voice. Now, well, can I embarrass you and ask you, can you sing something Farsi?
Absolutely not.
There's no way? Come on, don't you want to hear some Farsi?
No,
Anybody?
no.
Something, just a little bit?
I honestly, I can't do it. No, maybe on the next time you bring me on the show. If you bring me back, I will do that. You know, singing actually was something I loved to do. When I was a kid, my brother and I would jam. My brother plays the piano. I actually play the piano too. And we would sit in our studio in my parents' house. And I would sing, and he would kind of make beats and stuff. So actually, at one point in my life, I wanted to be a singer.
We'll catch on another time on that one. But your parents must be so proud. Your brother's a physician.
Yes.
And here you are as an anchor on a very large marketplace. They must be very proud of you.
Thank you. You know, I'm so close to my family, and I go back to Woodland Hills a lot and to visit them. And my brother, yes, he started his residency at Cedars-Sinai. Him and I are very close. So I think for me, family is so important. And I think, you know, my dad comes and supports me a lot, and so does my mom. And I think that's something that I want to carry forward in my life as well.
Before we go, I know that you also had the brief interview with Leonardo DiCaprio. Compare that, you've got about 50 seconds.
Okay.
Compare that with the Oprah interview. What was it like meeting him?
Totally different emotions. So, you know, obviously Leonardo DiCaprio, I think, was a heartthrob of mine growing up. And just seeing his presence when he came out of that car and the 5,000 people that were waiting there at the Arlington Theater, he has a presence that I haven't seen in a while, because I've interviewed a lot of celebrities. And he was so charismatic and so professional with the interview that I was very impressed.
Well, we've been very impressed with this half hour with you.
Thank you,
Ken. It's such a delight to have you.
So good to see you.
And the time went by too quickly.
Hope to be back. Yeah, I know. We have so much more to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to know what's more on the recipe for this feast.
Next time. You'll be invited,
and
for
we'll
sure.
get you to sing.
Yes. Okay. We'll work on that.
All right. Glad to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's it for another edition of Ken Boxer Live. Now, be sure to stay tuned for some of our upcoming shows, which will include figure skater Ty Babylonia, actors Alan Thicke, Lost in Space star Bill Mumy, and actress Meryl Hemingway. Also remember to catch us on the web at kenboxerlive.com. All right, now for my guest, Shirin Rajaee, and for my director, Nick Ferretti, and for my entire production crew. I'm Ken Boxer saying we'll see you next week on Ken Boxer Live. Good night, everybody.